Okay, you guys, this is the video for Standard 6.33b. This is the second half. Woo, that made me dizzy. That is the second half of this standard because we've done what I am marking out now. And we are ready for the emergence of Taoism, Confucianism, and legalism. So the first thing that you need to do that you should have done in class today is make your chart that looks like this: philosophies, Confucianism, Taoism, and legalism. Remember, you can pause this video whenever you need to. But we're moving on. Alright, so the first thing that we wrote down on our paper, on our chart, was philosophies. Alright, I'm going to read this slide to you and then we're going to talk about it more in depth in a second. The later period of the Zhou dynasty is famous for the beginnings of two major Chinese philosophies: Confucianism and Taoism. The Chinese philosopher Confucius lived from 551 to 479 BC. You know I may be asking you how many years that is tomorrow, just in case you want to figure that out now. Many of his sayings and teachings impacted the culture and the government throughout the rest of the history in ancient China. Taoism was introduced by another famous philosopher that you know I always have trouble pronouncing, so I'm going to try to write it here. Lao Tzu. Alright, not loser, Lao Tzu. And he introduced the concept of the yin and the yang, and you've seen that symbol before. It looks something like that. Okay, and one side's dark and one side's light. Or one side might be good and one side might be evil. But that is the representation of Taoism. Okay, we're moving on to our next slide. Okay, so we're going to be talking about each one of these a little bit more in depth, and you're going to be making notes on your chart that you did. So, Ms. Williams is going to go over two of them with you.
Okay, so for Confucianism, Confucius was born about 2,500 years ago. The only people who could get an education back then were the nobles and the government officials. Public schools, like ours, did not exist yet. So how would a young man like Confucius learn? He decided that the only way to go to work was to go to work for a nobleman. So every time the nobleman traveled, Confucius went with him, including trips to the imperial court and the capital city. So Confucius studied and learned until he was the most highly educated man at this time. So if I underline, that means you need to be taking notes on this. So Confucius, he worked for a nobleman. Oh, let's try the pen. He worked for a nobleman right here. And he was also most highly educated of his time. Those are two very important things. With the nobleman's help, Confucius became a teacher. Confucius was willing to teach anyone who wanted to learn. He was the first private teacher in China. He had strict ideas of how people should behave. Let's underline that he became a teacher and that he was willing to teach anyone who wanted to learn. He was a private teacher, so that was kind of be like a tutor after school, and that he had strict ideas. So these strict ideas that Confucius had were called, and his ideas were actually called Confucianism. It's not a religion, it's just a way of behaving so you know to do the right thing. So let's underline that because that's important. So down here in this blue box, there's actually two of Confucius's sayings. One is, do not do unto others what you would not want others to do to you. And another one would be, if you make a mistake and do not correct it, this is called a mistake. So I want you to think about what these could mean or how you've heard them used today, and we'll talk about that tomorrow in class. So after completing that, this is how your chart should start looking. So if you need to pause it here and check your work, that's just fine. So the next part of this slide deals with Taoism, which looks like that, but it's actually pronounced Taoism with a D. And Taoism, or Tao, the main root of that is Tao, and it means the way to happiness. So let's underline that because that's important. While it sounds very nice, what is the way? Taoists, which are the people who practice this, are firm believers in joy and laughter. However, Taoism is not a religion. It's a philosophy, or a way of looking at life and a way of thinking about things. Taoists believe that if you look at life and go about things in the right way, you'll be much happier. So this is basically the key to happiness. So there's a story right here about the ugly duckling, and it says, when does the duckling stop feeling ugly? When he discovers he's a swan. When he recognizes who he really is, a beautiful swan, he finds his way to happiness. So that's a great example. I'm sure all of you have heard, is the glass half empty, or is it half full? And depending on how you look at it, it's either a positive or negative light. The second story down here is called, it's from the house at Pooh Corner. Rabbit's clever, said Pooh thoughtfully. Yes, said Piglet, Rabbit's clever. And he has a brain. Yes, said Piglet, Rabbit has a brain. There was a long silence. I suppose, said Pooh, that's why he never understands anything. I want you to think about this story and what it could possibly mean, and then we'll talk about it in class tomorrow. So after reading that Taoism part of the slide, this is what your chart should be looking like. So if you need to pause right here and make sure your notes are correct, go ahead and do that right now.
Okay guys, so now we're ready for legalism. All right, we're in this section right here. Okay, legalism is a third philosophy that stressed the importance of law. You probably saw the root word legal in there, so think of law. A thinker named, I cannot even pronounce his name, so we're going to call him Han for short, introduced the ideas of legalism during the 200s BC. He believed that humans are naturally evil. Strict laws and harsh punishments were necessary. So strict laws, harsh punishments were necessary to force the people to do their duty. So many aristocrats, that was wealthy, powerful people that were usually in a leadership role, supported legalism because of the use of force. In other words, they liked the idea of the use of force to make people do what they needed to do. Legalism did not consider the wishes of the people. This is important. They didn't really care what you thought. Legalism did not consider the wishes of the people. Its ideas led to cruel punishments for even the smallest of crimes. So, for example, in a legalistic society, if you did something wrong, it was believed that you, your relatives, and your neighbors should be punished. Now, how would you like that? All right, we're going to move back to our slide and we're going to put down these facts on legalism. Okay, so you're going to have to pause it when you need to, but I have your points marked down here for legalism. It stressed the importance of laws. It was based on the belief that humans are naturally evil. Strict laws, harsh punishments were necessary to control or force people to do their job. And they did not consider the wishes of the people. And I'm actually going to add one more down here. I'm going to add the founder, or the person who came up with this legalistic system. His name was Qin. Let me write his name down here before I forget how to spell it. Qin Shi Huangdi. Okay? So we had Confucius for Confucianism. We had Laozi for Taoism. And now we have Qin Shi Huangdi for legalism. Alright, so I have moved to the next slide. This is your homework. If you need to use another piece of paper to redraw your chart, you may do so. If you have room at the bottom of your paper to add these facts, you may do that as well. But this is your homework. You are to take each one of these facts or these notes that are written down in these white boxes, and you are to put them on your paper where they belong. So, for example, which one of these sections did I say was when they believed that humans are naturally evil? If you said it's Taoism, you are incorrect. It is legalism. So you would write believes that humans are naturally evil on your chart. Now, like I said, if you need to make a new chart, make it. If you have room on the one you're working on, use it. But I am looking for these facts. There are 20 facts written at the bottom of this page. There are 20 facts down here. It does not mean that the same amount is going to go in each box. That won't work out because 3 won't divide into 20. So Confucius, or Confucianism, may have more facts than Taoism. But you need to take each one of these and put them under the category that they belong in. If you happen to see a philosophy, a philosophy, a philosophy 3 times, guess what that means? I think that is a dead giveaway that you know that each of these are a philosophy. Now, I have given you 4 answers. You have 16 left. You do those yourself and bring it to me tomorrow and show it to me that you have done it. Got it? I hope so. If you don't understand, email me, phone a friend, ask someone else that was in class with you. Do whatever you need to do to figure out how to do this because you cannot afford to get another 0 on something that is simple. Alright, so get your homework done and bring it in tomorrow. See you, bye.